And so let's get reaction to this. Of course, we are joined by international relations expert, Mr. Thembisa Fakude, for analysis. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on the show. This is quite the development, right? The UN's report having found that since October 2023, Israel has breached 4 out of 5 genocidal acts under international law. I mean, let's reflect on what this means, not just for Palestine, but certainly for South Africa.
Well, it means that we took the right position, and South Africa has now been proven to have been on the right side of history, because we were the first ones when it was unpopular to take Israel to the International Court of Justice and charge it with genocide. Now everybody believes and everybody understands that this is a regime led by Benjamin Netanyahu that is committed to continuing with this genocide. You correctly put it, they now moved into the Gaza City and they're demolishing every building in Gaza City with an intention of making it uninhabitable. And the intention is to force the Palestinians further south so that they can occupy Gaza City. So this report is important, but I don't think it will stop Benjamin Netanyahu and his zealots from continuing with this genocide in Gaza and in the West Bank.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next, right? The report, a significant development, but you already have Israel saying that they reject the findings of this report. And it brings again to the fore, Mr. Fakude, just the teeth of a structure like the United Nations in a moment like this, the steps that can be taken beyond this report.
Yeah, I mean, it's not binding. It's a report that can be used as evidence in other platforms that seek justice for the Palestinians, but it's not binding. But having said that, it's an important piece of information and report, because this is forever going to haunt the Israelis and those that remain in Israel and citizens of Israel. Moving forward, that they are complicit and they were part and parcel of this genocide. So those not binding, but the historical implications or future implications of this is going to be quite severe to the people of Israel in generations to come. And all of this is because of one particular person who wants to continue with his protecting his career by kicking the can down the road. That's the first point. The other point, of course, is what they want to destroy multilateralism. They want to destroy the United Nations and international law. And once that happens, and it's a trapping that all of us must be careful of, because what they are likely to do now is to get out of these multilateral platforms. And if they do get out of the multilateral platforms, then all of us have to worry, because it means they'll do as they please, because there won't be any accountability. What is needed right now is pressure against Israel in the form of sanction, divestment, and boycott. That's the only thing that they will heed in terms of them stopping what they want to what they continue doing in Gaza. We know that they don't care about the hostages anymore, because Benjamin Netanyahu has simply put the hostages at risk by going and attacking Gaza City. And the Hamas has said that they are not to be blamed henceforth if anything happened to the hostages, because it's Benjamin Netanyahu who's going to go ahead, who's going to have to be blamed if these hostages that are still lingering somewhere in the caves in Gaza City get killed.
And you talk about boycotts and sanctions, and you have to consider that the war in Gaza is not one that started just in October 2023, that it has been decades. And in fact, those calls for boycotts and sanctions have been made by bodies that support the Palestinian plight for years, and that not necessarily bringing any real results. So, I wonder how optimistic you are about that. But does a report like this perhaps give motivation to the international community to say, well, this is what the UN has found, and perhaps the onus is on each nation to step forward and take various steps, and you can talk about what those would look like, much like we saw with South Africa approaching the International Court of Justice and some international support in that regard as well?
Well, at the moment, our hands are tied because we have international law and there are rules and engagement rules and regulations in terms of how nations can act in putting pressure on other nations in stopping them from committing such crimes. And the trapping, of course, particularly from those that are proximate to Israel in countries such as Qatar, which has been attacked last week, is to go and be aggressive against Israel. But once you do that, the chances are you are going to be violating international law, and it's exactly what they want. They want to destroy and collapse the international law so that it's going to be free for all. They can do as they please without being accountable. So all of us are forced now to adhere and protect international law and multilateralism, because it's the only way that Israel will eventually, particularly Benjamin Netanyahu, will eventually have to account. So we'd like to see more drastic measures taken against Israel. But there are no other drastic measures. No country in the world can go and attack Israel, because that will be the breach of international law. We can only use the instruments that are available to us to put pressure on Israel. And I've warned in some of my writings that countries must be very careful not to go outside the ambit of international law, because that's what the United States and Israel want to do. The only way they can survive this is in the absence of international law. And Benjamin, including Donald Trump, they all know that when the dust settles, there are going to be cases against them, and particularly Benjamin Netanyahu. We might just find themselves in The Hague.
I do want to just take a little bit of a side route here, but we're still very much talking about South Africa's position on the situation in Gaza, the tensions that's caused us with the United States. And now, Mr. Fakude, the clock is ticking. The 30th of September is just days away, and that there is actually the expiry for that possibility of a renewal of AGOA. I mean, what do you foresee we will be seeing on the 1st of October?
I don't foresee anything, because AGOA has been out the window a long time ago. Donald Trump, when he came up with his trade tariffs, was basically threw the AGOA out the window. Perhaps other African countries will still benefit, but for South Africa, there's no benefit, because we already have the 30% tariffs imposed on us, including other countries such as Morocco, Algeria, and others. So there's no AGOA anymore, because AGOA, what was the spirit and intention of AGOA? It was to give the tariff-free zone, or create a tariff-free zone for African countries so that they can continue dealing with the United States. But with these tariffs that is imposed on us, AGOA is gone. But interesting, of course, is that China has come in, and China has exempted all African countries and giving them free tariffs to export their goods and services to China, except for one country, of course, Swaziland. But in terms of AGOA, I don't see any resuscitation as long as Donald Trump is around. Particularly, even if it does happen, South Africa is certainly going to be excluded, because there are a lot of people who like to, or have an axe to grind with South Africa because of its position that it is taken. The fact that we are now enjoying this 30%, for us, I don't even think is a discussion we need to entertain at the moment. We must just prepare ourselves for tough times ahead and look for alternative markets.
Yeah, that's all we've got in front of us. Well, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Mr. Thembisa Fakude, of course, is the Director of Africa-Asia Dialogues.